It has been an exciting journey on the Roundtable Talk. We have featured a host of high-profile individuals such as cabinet ministers, permanent secretaries, directors, and a host of other high-profile guests. As we proceed with the Roundtable Talk, we would like to announce that it is now going mainstream. Yes, you heard me right. Going forward, the Roundtable Talk will be broadcast on Millennium TV, Channel 95 on the Topstar decoders, on YouTube, and as always on Smart Eagle's Facebook page. Join me every Thursday at 15:30 hours as I bring to you more and more exciting guests for more information, entertainment, and education. I'm Nakiwe Simpungwe, your host. Relations between Zambia and Germany date back to 1964 and have been characterized by a development program that has seen Germany spend an estimated $1 billion covering sectors such as health, water and sanitation, refugee assistance, education, governance, public financial management, and a budget support. And to discuss this and many more topics, we have on the Roundtable Talk this afternoon Zambia's ambassador to Germany and also accredited further to Poland, Austria, Slovenia, the Slovak Republic, the Czech Republic, and Hungary. His Excellency Ambassador Anthony Mukwita. Ambassador, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Nakiwe. I hope you are feeling well, and our viewers and listeners in Zambia and online are well too today.
We are feeling good. Zambia is great. How is Germany, Ambassador?
Germany, apart from the coronavirus that is being experienced by everybody else in the world, Germany is good. We are moving slowly away from winter and we are beginning to enjoy much warmer weather. And today we actually had about 17 degrees. Yesterday we had a lot of sunshine. It was almost 20 degrees. So you can imagine the flowers are beginning to bloom and everybody's beginning to get out instead of staying inside to cover or cower from cold. So I must say we are blessed.
Great stuff. Likewise, Zambia is pretty sunny this afternoon. And I have to tell you, Ambassador, that just reading out the number of countries that you are accredited to made me feel for a moment there like a presenter at the Miss World beauty pageant where, you know, the presenter says, now we're bringing onto the stage Miss Uruguay, you know, Miss Puerto Rico, Miss. You've got so many countries that you're accredited to, and I think that is extremely amazing. And I always begin, you know, by asking my guests about themselves, to tell us a little bit about themselves, because the show is about individuals that are making great impact in society most of the time. And I always take the opportunity to ask the guest to give us a little bit detail about themselves, just to give our audience an idea of how they became. So if you don't mind, Ambassador, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Ambassador Mukwita, really?
Okay, before we actually go in telling about myself, I'd just like to thank you first for inviting me on behalf of the embassy to this program, which I have been following quite a while now. I have seen you doing some great jobs. I saw you interview the Chief Government Spokesperson, Ms. Dora Silia. I saw you with Brother Amos Chand. I saw you with Brother Emmanuel Mwamba, Honorable Chitokela, and others. And I'm coming from a media background. So allow me to flatter you by saying that I have been noticing that you keep growing very well in this job, but taking to it like a what. You're doing a great job, especially that, you know, information is the oxygen that democracy runs on. So I thought before we get too entangled into other issues, just to encourage you for the great work you are doing for the country.
I'm very grateful and humbled, Ambassador. Coming from you, that means a lot, because as you just said, you're from the media yourself. And this is an area where you're extremely conversant, and to get such a compliment from you means a lot to me. Thank you so much, sir.
You are welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. So I trained, I started my training at Evelyn Horn way back in 1993. I did journalism, and from there on, I moved on to do several other courses. I was identified in 1994 by the American Embassy as one of the young people who would in future become leaders. There is a program they have with the State Department called the International Visitor Leadership Program, which saw me tour the United States. I was barely about 24 years. So we moved around from Washington, D.C. and 7 states, ending up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and working on one of the newspapers there called The Advocate. And then I returned and worked for a couple of local newspapers. Those days, the papers really were the Sun newspaper, the Post newspaper, and from there on, I was encouraged by one of my friends. He's not with us anymore, but he encouraged me to say that, look, Zambia is good, but it's a limited pond for you to fish in. You have to start looking at writing for international media because of the amount of exposure that you will get. So I scoured around the internet trying to see media that would take up a young and hungry journalist. And I managed to become a correspondent for the Independent Online, which services the independent newspapers of South Africa, such as the Cape Times, the Business to Business Review, and a couple of other ones, until I landed a permanent gig as one of the only 32 full-time correspondents for Bloomberg News. And I did a number of work also for other internationals, such as the Los Angeles Times. Then one day, the late H.E decided that he needed to add a little bit of flavor to his radio station. And he invited me to co-host with Ambassador Frank Mutubila to co-host Let the People Talk, which worked out very well for me because then I was able to get news directly from the sources, which then I would distribute to the international world. This was under the Levi Mwanawasa administration, may his soul rest in peace. And then I was actively involved in media activism at the Media Institute of Southern Africa with my colleague whom I work with at the embassy now, Mr. Kellis Kaunda, who was then the chair of the NISA Zambia, and I was a board member for politics and parliament. But then as things go, along the way, looks like I was a constant pain in the administration. So I ran into a bit of a glitch with the law, and I had to leave the country. So that's a diplomatic way to say it. So I packed a bag, my wife and I and my son, who was barely 3 months old, we left. We went to Australia, where I have signed up for a degree, for a master's degree in professional communications. Actually, I first enrolled for journalism, but when they looked at my experience, the number of years worked, the exposure, they said, you are not going to learn anything new, so you need to study the media itself instead of you studying journalism. And we have a perfect course for you. We call it Master of Professional Communication with a bias or a major in mass communication. So I went to the Edith Cowan University in Perth, that is the capital of Western Australia. I went there self-sponsored with my wife, scraping on each and every penny, and us working any odd job we can do, mention it, I've done it, I've eaten tables, I've cleaned offices, I've gotten my hands dirty. Yeah, and then I was able to graduate on top of one of the top class out of 12 units. I had 6 distinctions, it's 80%. Actually, 2 of them were H.D, which is higher distinctions, despite having been a full-time worker, full-time husband, full-time father. And when I finished the course, I stayed on because my wife had 2 years sort of this separate team. So I had to stay around for her also. But then the time kept dragging on, and I thought before I get too comfortable living abroad, it was time to get out. So 2010, I made a conscious decision to return to Zambia. I left behind my wife and my son, and I said, you guys, I'm going to go and try and see if we can start setting up baby steps so that eventually you can come back. And I came back, teamed up with brothers like Emmanuel Mwamba and Amos Chanda, and we hit the ground running, doing the campaign work for the late President Michael Sata. We did statements in the background, did several networking issues. So when he came into office in September 2011, I was one of the first few people appointed under the ministership of Honorable Given Rwinda. I was given a position first as Deputy Managing Director of the Zambia Daily Mail, which, by the way, that time was the lowest selling newspaper with about between 1,500 to 2,000 copies per day. From now, I am sure it's the largest newspaper from what I understand from the Bureau of Statistics. Yeah, I moved up there quickly to be managing director or editor-in-chief. I remember sometimes I was conned and frowned upon by people who were saying, he's turning the newspaper into a tabloid, or he's turning the newspaper into a magazine. But what we did with the rest of the team there ensured that we captured more readers. We came up with a newer writing style, came up with a more conversational style, came up with a human interest kind of stories. I was also in the forefront of redesigning Zambia Daily Mail, what it is now, what is called Lina. I had been working on that project for more than 2 years until I became managing director. When I left under political circumstances, they eventually became a Belina, and the newspaper now is thriving. I am very personally attached to that newspaper because I went there when it was really, really the newspaper that nobody wanted to touch, to now being the most happening paper. And then later on, we started working with President Lungu. From the time he was deputy minister, I was him around. I had known him for quite a while back as a very good man, a good lawyer. When we were young reporters at times of Zambia, we looked up to lawyers like Edgar Lungu, who was working just right there in the city. And he also defended a lot of our cases through media activism, pro bono, by the way, at the Media Institute of Southern Africa. So my history of this man who is deputy minister, then becomes full cabinet minister, and suddenly wears so many hats, was inspired by the lawyer that I knew a long time ago when I myself was just a young reporter. And like they say, when he became president against all odds, I again was one of the first lucky people. He appointed me to be deputy ambassador in Germany, a position I think they call chancellor, but you are basically deputy head of mission. Within a year, 2 years, the president made me the acting head of mission until 2017, when he decided to send me to Germany to become ambassador here, the 12th ambassador, and also to look at other countries of extra accreditation, which I'm so glad you've got a grip on. You mentioned all of them. Sometimes I forget, myself. So I have been here with, this little humble background, and I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah. Humble background to you, but extremely impressive to me, Ambassador Mukwita. I'm very, very happy to learn the things that I've learned today. I didn't know most of the things. Your journey is quite an inspiration to the young people. As I said, I think for me, it's very important for a show like this. It's not just about bringing high-profile people, but learning their journey as well to give a perspective to a young person out there who is also trying to become. And you have demonstrated that you really had to work extremely hard, and it has been a whole 9 years. There has not been any shortcuts in your becoming what you are today. There was literally no shortcuts. You had to work extremely hard and get your education, and finally you're here. And also for the Daily Mail, I must mention your footprints are still there. It's one of the best newspapers, if not the best right now in the nation. And so well done, Ambassador. Now, you are entrusted, Ambassador, with representing Zambia in the hot EU seat, you know, which is also the biggest economy in Europe and the top 4 globally, additionally accredited to the 6. I keep talking about them because, as I said, it's exciting for me to mention them. They are quite a mouthful. There are a lot of them because just listing them takes a minute. Now, how do you manage such a huge responsibility?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important question, Nakiwe. And the best way to answer it is that one cannot claim to do all the job alone. If you've got a good team around you, it's all about teamwork, because you can delegate for one person to take up a certain responsibility and another one in your team. And for me, myself, personally, I think I have been blessed with a good team at the Embassy of Zambia in Berlin. I have moved with a number of them to the countries of extra accreditation, and where we have not been able to move, we have been able to make sure that we contact them. But another thing that you have to know, it lightens the burden a little bit, Ms. Nakiwe, is that this is a conscious economic decision by several governments, not only Zambia, but by several governments, to ensure that if you are in a certain jurisdiction, you can take care of those jurisdictions from one office instead of spreading them out on repeated costs. So I believe the founders had that in mind when they gave certain countries extra accreditation. It's not uniquely a German embassy thing. Several Zambian embassies do this kind of thing. It's just that this one is sort of like in the center of Europe, especially like you mentioned, to priority words, the largest economy in the country. The tall and short of it is teamwork. You have to ensure that the people that you work with buy in. You also, that is here at the embassy, and you also have to make sure that the people back home also buy in. They have to understand that you are part of a bigger machinery. So that lessens the burden. Poland, Austria, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Germany all becomes such a smaller component when you have a team. Yeah.
Great stuff. Now, how do you describe the economic diplomacy relationship between Zambia and Germany?
I think it is one which is thriving. We have, if my memory serves me right, about 30 German companies already in Zambia. One of the largest full-time employers in Zambia in the agriculture sector is German. It's called Amathion Agro Company, which is run by a very, very diligent gentleman called Paul Brum. He employs more than 2,500 Zambians who pay taxes. These are full-time workers, 2,500. That is no walk through the park for a single company. And the investment in that company's agriculture sector runs into hundreds of millions of euros. And now they have even managed to get space to sell food from Zambia on European shelves, on German shelves. This company also employs more than 5,000 outgrowers every year, and it keeps increasing new products. This is fireball. It's not smokes and mirrors. These guys pay real taxes. These guys have schools. These guys have clinics in their house. Why is this so important for me to always mention? I think it is always important to mention this because if other companies in Germany, if other companies in Austria, if other companies in Poland see that one of theirs has been in Zambia for the past 4 years, for the past 5 years, and they keep expanding their footprints. It means it's an endorsement that Zambia is a safe destination. Business always want safety. They want to wake up in the morning and find that their farm is still standing. They want to wake up in the morning and find that their offices are still standing. And that is what Amathion and Carl Brun are showing the potential investors from Germany and this hot city of the EU, as you have mentioned. So to me, in a nutshell, that is one of the greatest economic diplomacy. But like you mentioned, over the years, over the more than 50 years that we've been together, the Bundesrepublik has been an all-weather friend. They have come to our aid when the president, His Excellency Edgar Lungu, has asked for refugee support. They have come to our aid. I think you remember that they pumped more than 20 million euros in direct response to the COVID pandemic last year through UNICEF. The largest, I think, thus far since the pandemic crippled global economies. They have come to our rescue when we have been looking at expanding in the renewable and clean energy sector. So I think as ambassador, I wouldn't, say that there is anything that has been short that we have not been able to take advantage of in a win-win situation between Zambia and Germany. And the warm and cordial relations, I am glad to say, that they keep expanding. But one thing you have to know, Ms. Nakiwe, is that if you see this kind of relationship going, it trickles down to the leadership. It means there is a very good leadership, either with the president, relationship either with the president, the chancellor, and the president of Zambia. If there wasn't, then there wouldn't be this huge presence and the encouraging and the shoving off of business towards Zambia from Germany. I personally have seen of country directors, 2 or 3, despite the COVID. They have come to the office. We are going to set up an office in Zambia. They have come to the office. We are going to continue this project and the other. This means that Zambia is a good destination for both economic and political diplomacy, in my view.
Ambassador Mukwita, and also Germany is known, for its motor manufacturing industry, and it's going green, because in response to the climate change. And Zambia has a raw material that is extremely useful to this kind of, industry, the motor industry, and this is the copper that is our mainstay. How is Zambia, going to leverage from this transition to electric vehicles that Germany is getting into, to ensure that we might
Yes, I'm glad. That's a very, very, I was completely unprepared for it. You've had one on top of me on that one. I can see you are already attuned to the recent economic developments. Yes, the world, the Western world, Germany, which is the home to BMW, Germany is the home to Mercedes, Germany is the home to Audi, Germany is basically the home to machines that make machines move. Now they want to go green and renewable energy. The same applies to the United States, which is one of the biggest markets, and the same applies to China, which is probably one of the other biggest markets. So this presents a very huge opportunity for countries like ours, which are rich in mineral resources. From what I understand, more than 70% of an EV, as they are calling them, or electric vehicles, it comprises minerals that are found in Zambia, such as copper, cobalt, and they are there in abundance. To answer your question, in response to this, we thought we could position ourselves as soon as possible, ahead of times, to be the front runners, to be the trailblazers. So I actually traveled to the BMW plant in Bavaria with my press secretary, our press secretary and admin, Mr. Kelly Kaunda, sometime before the pandemic, to meet the top leadership there. regarding the opportunities that could exist in Zambia, and to probably interest them to set up plants that could add value for manganese, for cobalt, for copper, that would subsequently create jobs, because their standards here are pretty high regarding where they get these minerals. They could get them from any other country, but if that country is believed to either be war-torn or unstable or probably uses child labor, their shareholders are reluctant to deal with that. You know very well that Zambia, under our current president, has very high credentials regarding human rights, regarding child labor, regarding early child marriages. So that is what we went to discuss with BMW. And I am very glad to report that they gave us the top management for the African to discuss this. We have done the report, so there are government processes, and I know lots of things right now have been slowed down by the COVID, but we already did our report, and this issue was also raised again during economic diplomacy indaba that was held under the auspices of Lubin Habazo in Livingstone, where we reinforced that as the world, especially the West, the rich West, goes towards electric vehicles predominantly, Zambia should start setting itself up now. Zambia should start knocking on the doors of BMW. Zambia should knock on the doors of Mercedes-Benz. Zambia should put together a task force to ensure they map out a strategy on how they can attract these companies to come and add value in Zambia, create jobs, and live up to the president's aspirations of poverty reduction and becoming a better middle income, even higher income country. Because we basically sit on a bottom boat and the market is yawning out there, just for us to exploit it by negotiating the best deal for the people and safeguarding the prosperity of our children and their children too. So the market is there and we have the resources.
Yeah. Great stuff, Ambassador Mukwita. For those that are just joining us right now, we are hosting on the Roundtable Talk Zambia's ambassador to Germany, and this is Ambassador Anthony Mukwita addressing the Roundtable Talk live from Germany. Now, Ambassador, you know, is there any way that Zambia can earn more money in diplomacy apart from economic diplomacy?
You keep getting better at this job, Nakiwe. You see, most embassies, we established them when Zambia was very rich at independence, when the Zambian kwacha was at par with the pound. So our founders ensured that they bought properties, they bought land in the various countries. Now I think we have about 38 missions. And in almost all of them, I haven't been to all of them, but I know that most of them have their own land and have their own property. Here, for instance, we have 2 plots which largely remain disused. So the answer to the question that you have so candidly put forward is that we could monetize this by getting into private-public partnerships, you know, where we put in our shareholding as land. And financing companies, which are many, can put in their finances because they are able to borrow locally, and everybody is reluctant to give to an embassy locally. Once these partnerships are established, in my view, for instance, rough estimates show that for us here, according to the market prices, we could earn anything between 500 to 600,000 euros per year for the treasury. With that kind of money, I know that we will be able to stop paying rent for the embassy, which can be quite expensive per square meter. If you are in an expensive country like Germany, you could stop paying rent for the ambassador's residence. You could stop paying rent for all the 5 or 6 diplomats that you have. You could actually have a quarter of the property which you can rent out. And that money that you generate can be given back to to the treasury to support other embassies that do not have the same advantage, competitive advantage. So it is not, in my view, all about can we attract investment into tobacco, can we attract investment in cassava, the chief one that Ambassador Mwamba always talks about, which I saw you asking him recently. Can we attract investment in fishing? No, there is a lot more we can do as embassies to generate money for the treasury and reduce the drain on the treasury and support other in addition to attracting the investment to go to Zambia or attracting Zambians to come and trade with Germany. So I am glad that you brought up that question. Perhaps we should do a report, because I mean, everything we do, we cannot do anything at all. For the sake of transparency and checks and balances, we always have to get authorization from headquarters if we want to do these things. That is one of the ways I think we can monetize it. And in most cases, properties that we have are in prime areas. So they are able to finance the operations of an embassy without denting a single hole on the treasury, in my view. But then I'm a dreamer, so sometimes I dream a bit.
A good dream. I agree with you. I agree with you, and I think you should do a report so that the issues can be delved into and as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Now, you have in Germany, if my research serves me correctly, over 500 Zambians living in Germany and working in different fields in medicine and also going to school. How do you, ensure that all the Zambians that are living in Germany are, safe? And how do you make sure that you bring each other up to date with how everybody is living in Germany from Zambia?
Another interesting question. I always say the Zambians living in Germany, or the diaspora that we represent, are the biggest diplomats. I always say that if they feel good about Zambia, then they will talk good about Zambia. And it's that good word that encourages other people to go to Zambia. If you say anything ill about your country, you will not expect people to a country which you say is on fire. But if you say this is a beautiful country with 365 days of sunshine, I always like to say, and you reminded me today, then everybody will be wanting to go there. If you say that it's not only the home of the Victoria Falls, the Lumango Falls, the Kalungwishi River, and the Kundalila Falls, but also a country with the people with the warmest smiles and the welcoming attitude, people will come to Zambia. So as an embassy, we have come up with a deliberate attempt to ensure that we engage with the Zambians. Actually, your number is pretty accurate. We have, I think, about 505 either married students or working. We got this as an official number, unless, God forbid, some have been since the pandemic. But we have also established a network through our press office to ensure that there is a group where we communicate each and every activity that we know may affect their livelihood. So for instance, if there is a ban to travel to Zambia, we are about the first ones to go, because the Federal Foreign Office will not in Germany inform us these restrictions, these are the requirements, and we circulate that to our Zambians, because we don't want them to go to the airport one day and find out they can't fly. And we try to, every time, it's just that now we are under a law, but every time we have been invited or not invited, we have gone to funerals, we have gone to those that are in hospital at our own cost. We have joined them at their events, which they have put together as Zambians at our own cost. And we keep the door open that as long as we are not under lockdown, we will be available to ensure that we do within our means, within the stipulated authority, what they want, because their good feel is very, very important. Yeah.
Great stuff, Ambassador Mukwita. And, you know, we are hosting Zambia's ambassador to Germany, Ambassador Anthony Mukwita, on the Round Table Talk this afternoon, live from Germany. There's a topic that is very exciting to me that I want to discuss with you, and there could be other people that may not know this, but you are a published author, Ambassador Mukwita, and you penned down, you know, the biography of President Lungu, the official biography, against all odds. Now, this was a very exciting book. I myself took time to read it, and it's a very, very detailed account of President Lungu's journey, you know, to the presidency. Could you just tell us what made you to pen down this biography at the time that you did?
Thank you very much, Nakiwe. You are very kind again. From the beginning, when you asked a little bit about my background, I think I mentioned that I used to be one of the young reporters admiring the president through his diligence to do pro bono work. And then when I came back from my first master's program in Australia to start working, we were always meeting, and I saw now he was in this high political place. I had seen him attempt once to stand in Chawama, and he was told not to, and he backed down, but he kept being loyal and friends and advisor to President Michael Sata, who left us in October 2014. Then when I became deputy managing director, I saw him rising from a deputy minister in the office of the vice president to becoming Minister of Home Affairs, to becoming Minister of Defense. So my journalistic instinct kicked in, you know, like you ladies, our mothers, our wives, our sisters, say like your maternal instincts kicked in. So my journalistic instinct kicked in that there was something happening here. There was something happening. So I started penning around every time I was with him. I would find out where they go to school, how to finish school, you know, how's the family, what the dad doing, and what is your mom doing. So, and he is a lawyer, so lawyers tell stories, you know, they captivate, they gather people around the fire. So I spent some time, and then I saw this other time, he wore 3 or 4 caps. He was Minister of Defense, he was Minister of Legal Affairs, he was President of the ruling party. And I thought this is a period that needed documentation, because also it was coming at a crucial time, Ms. Nakiwe. Remember, we had a president die in office before that in 2008. It was happening again, and we were around, and I didn't see much documentaries that had been done for the previous one. And I got tired of this thing of, oh, somebody should do something. So one day we were at, when he had become president, one day we were at the relaunch of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda's book. And in his speech, the current president challenged Zambian journalists, Zambian writers, Zambian historians. We should take the forefront and write something. And he gave an example of the Bible. You know, Zambia is a Christian nation. He says, that's why there's a gospel according to Nakiwe, there's a gospel according to Philae, there's a gospel according to and that kind of thing, to Chanda. So let us have as many of these as possible. So I thought, I felt as if he was talking directly to me, because I had actually kept telling him that the way you have become president shows resilience, and it is against all odds. So when I went to Sweden, Stockholm, with my family, my wife Elaine, and 2 boys in Loshomo, I suddenly found myself with a little bit of time, because as deputy head of mission, you don't really do that much. Most of the responsibilities are the head of mission, and they delegate according to how they feel. So I started looking for a time to productively fill in time. And I thought a story, a documentation of a Zambian living leader would be of contemporary importance. So I started staying up, burning the midnight oil, staying up from the time I got off the office. I sat on my laptop in my home office, and my wife would sometimes come to call me to sleep about 03, 04, sometimes 5 o'clock if I've been writing on a Friday, because then I know I can sleep the whole day on Saturday. Yes. So that is how it happened. I got an insight of a story of a man from humble beginnings who made something out of himself and galvanized other people to get around it. And for me as a writer, I think that it's always good. Like I said, you started with a simply round table on Smart Eagles. Now you are on YouTube. Now you are on Millennium TV. And you've been interviewing all these interesting people. This, to me, what you are doing is you are already documenting a Nakiwe book on so and so in Zambia, which you can put together because you have enough material, and your material will be adding to the body of knowledge. I learned a lot from the interview you had with Ms. Doris Leah about her. I learned a lot from the interview you had about the other colleagues, Honorable Chitotel. So this is information which, if you once pack it, it becomes official information and not pedestrian information. So for instance, that's why I thought, instead of discussing the Edgar Lungu in pubs and on the streets, we should probably have a document that can be verified. This book, as I speak to you, is now available in Ivy League universities such as Stanford. And it is available on all major online bookstores such as Barnes and Noble, such as Amazon. Mention it, the book is there. Why? Because it tells, again, a different story. Not that one that has been caricatured for us, but it tells a story of a president who gave up the president to get properly elected. At a time when the Western narrative was that African leaders would fight to death to get to office. You know this story. The story was about somebody who was already in office but said, hey, I do not want to set the country on fire, so I'm stepping down. Let's go down and battle it out. That is the main crux of the story. People actually think that sometimes it's just about President Edgar Lungu. It is, yes, in that he is the main character in the book where everything else it is centered. But it is an African story that demystifies these things that they have written about Africa being bloodthirst and being conflict ridden. It's about a president who decides, I want a democratic election and not fight, and still gets it against all odds. That is the inspiration behind it.
Because you were there every step of the way at the time of the journey to President Lungu getting into power as Zambia's 6th Republican president. You obviously, you know, in a couple of months' time, Zambia is going to another election, you know, general election to elect leaders at, you know, presidential and other levels. So I imagine that this book brings nostalgia to you, you know, because in a short while you will be reliving kind of the experiences that happened in 2015. How does this make you feel?
It does. Looking at from the time of publication on January 5, 2017 to now, so much has happened. so much, I'm looking at this again as a documentarist, so much material has been generated, in my view, and my thirst and hunger to document through an Edgar Lungu Reloaded, and I've even told himself that there should be a need for that, because you will recall, you are Zambian like myself, Nakiwe, you know that the president took over at a very critical time of, instability due to a power struggle after the late beloved president. There was a huge challenge to bring together all the parties. And I think leadership is seen in bringing together people at a difficult time. It's one of the parts of leadership, in my view. Others may have another yardstick. But then other external factors that he could not control, such as the severe drought 2015, 2016, that ensured that we now had to experience long hours of load shedding, which shut down some companies. I recall one of our tenants in our place back home, they left and dumped our little house because the company they were doing electricity maintenance for in the Copper Belt had no capacity to pay them anymore. So we felt the impact directly. It also came at a time when there seemed to be some sort of a crisis in the medical sector and fuel. So he presided to me on crisis after crisis. The government had to dig into its coffers to start buying energy so that there was no total collapse. So all this to me are things that need to be documented, and hence the reason I mentioned that as we go towards next election, perhaps after the election, whatever the outcome is, there a need for an Edgar Lungu Reloaded. And this time around, I challenge you to do the book, because you have experienced it personally. The more the merrier, I always say. The more people come in and put in their view, the more they connect with others. It's very scary, Ms. Nakiwe, to write a book, because once you have written a book, it's public. It's like a court judgment. It's out there. People will dissect it. Believe me, I've been called names you don't want to even know. And the only sin I committed was to write a book from my own view. But that has encouraged me that if you revel, if you resent me so much, then there must be something right I am doing. So I am thinking after the elections, we should be starting together another document, because we need these documents for the University of Zambia, for Montebushi University, for Evelyn Horn College, and just for our own stores. We need to tell our own diplomacy story. Growing up as a kid, I knew about Nigeria from literature, from Chinua Achebe, the River Between. Growing up as a kid, I knew about Kenya, Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Growing up, I knew about Europe. Animal Farm, from books like George Orwell, and of course James Hadley Chase, one of my favorite fun writers. But what I'm saying is, books are actually an act of diplomacy. People want to know as much about a country before they can go to that country. People want to know about the country's political setup and leadership by reading something that has written about that country. Some people say Zambians have a bad reading culture, and I say no. Zambians just do not have enough material by Zambians on Zambians. If they go in and find a Barack Obama book, they will not be that interested as if when they go in a book world and find a Nakiwe Simpungwe book. How did Nakiwe start the table with Smart Eagles? How many people did she want? What inspiration did she give to the girl child? That would be a book for the girl child. How did this female minister become film minister? How did the vice president become the first vice president? All this, there is a bunch, there's a litany. The story is written in a thread of gold of how much literature diplomacy we can do for our great country. And mind you, it's a great country, political stability for more than 55 years, smooth transition of power from one president to another, even when we have lost 2 presidents in office. You can't beat that record. It's a great, which gives it a lot of good stories. There is already too much bad news in the world. People sometimes want to hear a good side of the story.
Roundtable viewers from across the world, you are watching the Roundtable Talk, and our guest this afternoon is the ambassador, Zambia's ambassador to Germany, Ambassador Anthony Mukwita. And we're about to wind up, but before we wind up, Ambassador, you do know that, the cyber crimes bill was enacted into law in this country. The president just signed a few days ago, and it has, as expected, received mixed feelings. What is your take on this?
I thought you would never ask. It's an interesting time, but we now live in a cyber world. So it is very, very difficult to avoid laws, because when the internet came onto the scene, it was some sort of an unexpected phenomenon, So there were no laws that were in place to ensure that character A does not infringe on the rights of Nakiwe Simpungwe. I recall a man they call the internet or cyberspace czar of China. He's very popular in internet history. I think his name is Mr. Lu. I can check that later for you later on. He said the internet is like a fast riding car. We need to ensure that we put some brakes on it before, so that it doesn't harm anybody. And I recall the President of the United States then, POTUS, Bill Clinton, said he laughed with his colleagues and say, trying to slow down the internet is like trying to nail Jello on the wall. I'm sure you know Jello. It's a nice liquid food you can have for dessert. It's like trying to nail Jello on the wall. 16 years later, the cyber czar of China figured out how to nail Jello on the wall. Anyhow, the short and tall of the story is that from what I have seen, if you make reference to an article now, like the local media, the Times of Zambia, the Daily Mail, the Daily Nation, yourselves, the Smart Eagles, I tend a personal opinion which looked basically economic aspect, because my job also being a diplomat limits what I can discuss. I tend one based on the economy after reading up some studies which show that Zambia actually has been under cyber attacks, and the attackers have gone scot-free because we never had a law. For instance, a study called Cyber Attacks Africa 2016 shows that Zambia lost up to about $4 million in 1 year alone, about 6 years ago. The figures are higher in South Africa. The study also showed that children were vulnerable. I'm sure you are a mother, as I am a father, and you know how we love our children. I mean, we are even getting scared for them to simply walk out of the house to go through garbage. But now, can you imagine if they are not protected when you are at work, when they are on the internet, and somebody is peddling ice cream, and yet it is something else that may permanently damage the kids? You need a law for that. With the increase of the financial markets such as Airtel money, Zamtel money, MTN money, you keep exchanging information. All these things opens you up to a cyber attack. If you see there is programs on Netflix, on YouTube, there is programs where they show just how they prevent crimes that were going to happen in order to send a message to terrorists that if you try this, we can catch you because we are watching you. So in my view, I wanted to take, like I told you earlier on, I'm a romantic, person. I'm an incurable romantic. I always like to look at the glass as half full and not half empty. So I looked at the aspects that add value to the secret of children, to the secrecy or protection of children, to the protection of your own personal bank accounts, to the protection of data on your computer, and to the protection of ensuring that you do not get 60 people like they did in Nairobi, Kenya in 2013 and injured more than 100 people. Having said that, this is now a law, and I think people are free to discuss it further. They turned into law. So let's see how it goes. And it's also from what that was published in the local media. It's not cast in stone. It's not the 10 laws of Moses cast in stone. It can be see where you think there are excesses and reduce them, and you can see where you think there are weaknesses and increase them. The bottom line, I think, in my view, is that it should be a betterment of the nations. That's what I believe, because I am a civil servant. I believe Ms. Nakiwe doesn't want somebody to come to her Facebook page and call her unpalatable names and accuse her of having done something she has not done behind the veil, the cyberspace or the internet. The members say, I think what you should be able to do is, if you've got something to tell Nakiwe, you should be able to say it to her face. Don't go behind the veil of the internet to insult her or insult her family. There's a saying again that a lie goes halfway across the world before the truth puts on its running shoes. So if this law can slow down a lie against Ms. Nakiwe, then it should be that way. But if there is a fear that there are excesses, Zambia is very vigilant. It's got some best activists. They can demonstrate and lobby parliament and lobby government. And they have shown that. You know that bills have been withdrawn from parliament before. So I think amendments can be made where people fear that there may be excesses. And that's what democracy is all about.
Great stuff. And I think, personally, I think that it's a great, like you just alluded to, it's a great law because, I think that, internet is really the best invention of the 21st century. And I think that it's
look at us. We are talking from across the world.
People that are just messing it up. So I think that it's a great thing that such laws are being put in place to protect the internet as a tool itself, the cyberspace, to clean it up and sanitize it. And, we are winding up, Ambassador Mukwita. But before we go, I just want to hear how your family is doing. How's your wife? How are your children?
No, they are good. They're good. Under lockdown, unfortunately. But fortunately, that makes us stay together a little bit longer and rough each other up and, love each other a little bit more. Because there is nowhere we can go. There is a lockdown. So I feel pity for my wife. Sometimes she has to, not sometimes, she has the homeschooling. And the young man would like to visit his friends. The regulations are very strict. So we have to keep to ourselves and make sure that we remain safe. But I'm very grateful that you asked about them because we are not alone out here. And when I see Ms. Nakiwe, I know there is a family that she looks forward to going back to after work. So I'm most grateful that you asked that. Yeah.
Ambassador Mukwita, time has flown by. I have to tell you, I'm very, very happy to have hosted you. I feel so privileged that you took time off your schedule there to just come and grace the round table talk this afternoon. And so we hope that even next time when you're in Zambia, at that point, you can still come back to the table and we can discuss a few other things about what's happening in Germany and Zambia.
I think gratitude is mine.
Yeah. There you have it, our roundtable viewers. This episode of the Roundtable Talk featured Zambia's ambassador to Germany, His Excellency Mr. Anthony Mukwita. And until the next session of the Roundtable Talk, my name is Nakiwe Simpungwe, your host. Good afternoon. It has been an exciting journey on the Roundtable Talk. We have featured a host of high-profile individuals such as cabinet ministers, permanent secretaries, directors, and a host of other high-profile guests. As we proceed with the Roundtable Talk, we would like to announce that it is now going mainstream. Yes, you heard me right. Going forward, the Roundtable Talk will be broadcast on Millennium TV, Channel 95 on the Topstar decoders, on YouTube, and as always on Smart Eagle's Facebook page. Join me every Thursday at 15:30 hours as I bring to you more and more exciting guests for more information, entertainment, and education. I'm Nakiwe Simpungwe, your host.